All right, so in the world of college basketball these days, long gone are the days of the Tim Duncan spending 4 years at Wake Forest, Michael Jordan spending 3 years at North Carolina, or even AI spending 2 years in D.C. at Georgetown, Harry Lyles. But you can't go from high school to the NBA like you once could with LeBron, obviously, and Kobe. Kevin Garnett did it as well. But what we have as a happy medium of sorts is one and done, where players obviously can go and spend 1 year at the college ranks and then go on to their professional careers. So what we are going to try to do here, Lyles, is, as you see behind us, a lot of really good players that had a great one season in college basketball. We're going to try to rank them based on their respective seasons and who is the best. We have a lot of candidates here. So let's run through the list before we start to rank them. And we start with Carmelo Anthony, who I think was probably one of the best one-and-done players when you consider his single season alone. In 2002-2003 at Syracuse, won the national championship without a ton of help behind him as a freshman. Second-team All-American, not so sure about that, but he had 22 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, and was a third overall pick.
From one phenom to another, let's go a little bit more recent with Zion Williamson. He became just the third freshman to win the Wooden Award and the only player in the last 25 years to average at least 20 points, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 1.5 blocks per game in a single season. Also one of the great signature moments of all these guys, the blown tire.
Yes.
With the busted shoe. I mean, absolutely awesome. And just the booming dunks, as you see there on the screen.
Can't forget that blown tire. That was legendary. Trae Young didn't blow many tires, but he blew a lot of opponents' dreams of playing basketball in March during that year at Oklahoma. He was one of the best to ever do it. Long range shots as well, logo shots, 28 points per game nearly, and 9 assists.
And from one wild player to another, let's go with a lengthier one. Kevin Durant, the consensus National Player of the Year, first-team All-American, 25.8 points per game, 11.1 rebounds per game. Just one of the most spectacular, stunning players that we have ever seen.
I would agree with that. It was unfair watching him against some of that other competition in the Big 12. AD was unfair also when he was on the floor. 2011-2012 national champion, consensus National Player of the Year, first-team All-American. He won just about every single major award, and rightfully so for what he did. The guy averaged a double-double for the entire season, 186 blocks in a year, 5th most of all time in Division I ball.
Sam, this might be one of my favorites on this list, the most underappreciated player, Michael Beasley.
Yeah.
Obviously not the best tournament run for them, but holy crap, you want to talk about a dominating year, the Big 12 Player of the Year, 28 double-doubles, which is still a freshman record. He actually broke Melo's record of 22. I just remember that year and those Kansas State teams and Michael Beasley, how fantastic they were on a consistent basis night in and night out.
Doesn't have his jersey retired yet, which is fascinating
Fix
to
that.
me. I figured we would have that. So here's, I'm going to back up here a second because we got Melo here in this corner, but this is a list we're working with. We did not mention, obviously, Derrick Rose was a great one, R.J. Barrett, Greg Oden, who you said you loved watching back in the days. So here's our list. How do we want to play this? Let's go 5 to 1, and we'll rank them based on their individual seasons, not necessarily what they went on to do, thereafter. So let's start at 5. I don't think you can go wrong after 1 and 2, but let's see what you got at 5.
So I think at 5, let's start with somebody that, one, had a couple of factors here. One, I think if you're at 5, it's got to be one of these guys that doesn't have a championship. I don't like being a ring counter. Let's relax on that. But let's go phenom. Right? And let's go, again, memory. Let's go Zion Williamson here. I like Zion because, again, I think just because of how big he was on and off the court as a presence, no championship, still, though, did enough to be, in my opinion, in the Duke lore.
Missed some time, too. I mean, he was a great player in his own right, and they probably should have won more games than they actually did that year, which is why I think it's fair to have him at number 5. All right, at number 4, I'll take number 4, and I'm going to go with our aforementioned Mr. Beasley here.
I like it.
Again, one of the more, I think, underrated seasons of all time at Kansas State. Big 12 Player of the Year, 28 double-doubles, which is still a freshman record as well. He was just a formidable guy, and we don't really see a lot of players doing it with their left hand. It was just so cool to see him doing it as a lefty in that league. I thought that was awesome.
Yes, which you see more lefties now in the NBA. I specifically remember when he was coming up, people were like, well, he plays left-handed. Are we sure about
that?
What are we talking about, you know? But moving on to number 3. So I'm going to go another guy, and this hurts me to do this because we were talking right before we got on camera about just how wowed I was by Kevin Durant and watching him. The Oklahoma State game stands out to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with KD here because obviously they had the early tournament exit. He didn't win a championship. But my God, the way that I feel like watching Victor Wembanyama now, that's how I felt the first time I watched Kevin Durant play basketball.
It's a great comparison because he was that much taller, but I think he was one of the first guys that we actually saw like, I'm going to take the ball up the court. I'm going to be almost a point guard de facto that can score off the bounce and shoot the three as well. So KD at number 3 for best one-and-done seasons. All right, number 2 and number 1, I don't think you can go wrong here. I'm going to go number 2 and put AD.
I'm with that.
And I think we all agree probably Melo at number 1 or number 2. But for Anthony Davis, again, for what he was able to do on an already very good Kentucky team, he made them that much better. And he was a captain, obviously a leader on this team. We know the brow.
That's right.
That comes to play every game, too. So AD, I think, deserves number 2. And I think number 1, we go with Melo.
We go with Melo without a doubt.
But your thoughts on those two specifically?
No, I think that's perfect. And both, honestly, they capture 2 different eras as well. Because Anthony Davis, like the one-and-done era, like he did that in that era specifically what Carmelo did. I remember that Kansas team that they beat in the national championship being a very good team. Kirk Heinrich was on that team. Nick Collison was on that team. Like, that is a team that had NBA guys on it. And young Carmelo Anthony went in there and busted their behind. So the whole year that he had was great, but that Final Four and specifically that national championship stood out to me for him as well.
All right, so here are our top 5 one-and-done seasons here. We're going to get hammered, Lyles, because we always do number 1, but number 2, feel like we could have put some other players in here.
Sure.
Is there anybody that you think was maybe left out, or if you had a 6th spot that you would give it to?
I know I just have fond memories of watching Kevin Love play. I don't know that I would put him on this list. R.J. Barrett, good player, didn't do enough for me here. Derrick Rose, I think, has a good argument for 5. Trae Young, I think you could have the biggest beef with. For me, Kyrie Irving didn't play enough games to be on this list necessarily.
What about John Wall?
John Wall would be a great one as well. Also the best hoop mixtape that we have ever seen.
By far. Right?
John Wall would be a great one as well.
Yeah. But this is what we went with for 1 through 5. And obviously we're talking about this because we are in the midst of maybe seeing one of the greatest freshman campaigns ever that's being put up by Cooper Flagg right now, front runner for Player of the Year this year. What do you think Cooper Flagg has to do to make it on this list, or might he already be on this list?
When I look at who we've got on our list right now, I think that he's already interchangeable with Zion Williamson. I think the accolades or the statistics, if you will, of a Michael Beasley, he could approach.
If they continue on this trend.
If they continue on this trend. And then obviously, as we talk about 1 and 2, mentioned championships being part of the criteria for this list, they've obviously got potential there. So if he wins a championship with Duke this year, obviously it is going to be on his back. I think that automatically catapults him into at least the top 3.
But the thing you said there, too, and I think he does have to do it, is win a championship, or at least get damn close to winning one, because he has been that good, that dominant this year. That whole Duke team is really good. Cooper Flagg gets a ton of credit for being the star of the show, but this Duke team is formidable, and we will see what Cooper Flagg does as we progress throughout the entire season. But here's our list of the best one-and-done seasons in the history of college basketball.
The list. It's correct.
Fluid.